So one time I read this story, I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it's called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It was back in the 70s when hippies used to write fairy tales for their kids that were just as crazy as actual fairy tales. And it's about this seagull that wants to be like more than just a seagull. He wants to like learn to fly high in the sky and know that he's like, really know that he's a seagull. And all the other seagulls are like, no, you should just like fly and eat and poop and die. That's what we do. But he wants to be more, and God sees his like work and is like, I'm gonna bring you to heaven. But first, you need to find a younger seagull and take him under your wing, and then I'll let you come onto heaven. You know, teach him how to be better. So I read this story because I used to live with this old Native American kind of mentor. He's actually sitting here in the audience with me tonight, Marlon, and he was my roommate for a while, and he introduced me to this book one night when we were having a really spiritual conversation. He's a very spiritual person, and I'm just going to preface the story by saying that up until I met Marlon, I was a very spiritual person, in quotes, because I enjoyed being called a hippie and dressing like a hippie. And hippies are spiritual, but I hadn't really put any more belief into any of this stuff than I had to like Santa Claus. Like I was like, yeah, what a great idea, totally. I bet it's true. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Neat. Fairies too, I don't care, I'm a hippie. So that's kind of where I was before this night, but we got into one of those spirituality conversations and we started to cover, you know, the basics, hippie 101, like past lives, spirit, animal, you know, auras and chakras, and eventually we got to ghosts. Well, I wanted to seem really cool, like, I've been a hippie forever, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I grew up with a ghost. Like, I had a ghost in my house, so I'm fine. It didn't really, like, scare me when I was, like, a little kid. And she was nice. Her name was Rose. And he just looked at me in his normal kind of line chakra, peaceful voice and was like, well, I'm really happy that you told me that because I wanted to let you know that I've been having some issues with the ghost here in the apartment for a couple months now. So he comes into my bedroom, and what he does is he puts his hands right here on my ribs, and I can't like breathe or move, and I feel like I'm having a stroke, and I finally just use all my soul to push him out of my body, and then I'm okay, but I can't sleep again. So I was wondering like when I was gonna get around to telling you, and I feel like this is probably a good time, so all right. Oh, no, it's fine. You know, I grew up with ghosts, so it's what the. I was terrified, especially because like this had been one of those places where like I had just recently moved in, and every time I would go into the kitchen, I felt like somebody was like watching me. Like it's just one of those things. Anytime I was alone, I would like skip meals if he wasn't home because I would just not want to go into that kitchen. And I was like, maybe I'm just being an idiot or something, but this is terrifying. And I knew as soon as he said that, I'm like, something's in there. So anyway, then he gives me the book right after we have that conversation, and then he's got a friend staying in the back room, and he's like, well, I got to go to bed, you know. This has been a good talk or whatever, and I'm gonna go, you know, meet my friend. I'm like, cool. So I stay awake, I read the book, and then I go to sleep. And I wake up, and all of a sudden, Marlon is sitting there again in the same seat, and he's like, hey, man. And I'm like, hey. And he's like, it's really crowded in here, don't you think? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, I'm gonna go take care of my friend in the bedroom, and why don't you take care of Bonzo? And I was like, sure, Bonzo. And then I start to go look towards the kitchen, and it feels like somebody sticks this giant like metal cattle prod into the top of my head, and I'm just sitting there like this all of a sudden, and I'm lying there and I can't move and I can't talk, and I'm like having a stroke on one side of my face, and I'm freaking out. And the first thing that happens to me in my head is I'm like, I have no choice after this. I'm gonna have to like freaking turn into like one of those like old lesbian like fortune tellers in Vermont somewhere. Like now I'm having a spiritual experience. Damn it, I miss Cleo, I have no choice, fuck. And like, something's in me and I just can't move, and all I keep hearing is like, wah, 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 wah. And I'm totally terrified, but I like calm down, and I remember what Marlon said, like, just breathe, just use your spirit. So I'm like trying to breathe, trying to like push whatever this thing is out of me, and I hear just like really like faint in the background, this like sort of like Native American just like, and I don't speak any of these, so I don't know what the hell he's saying, but it's definitely like there, and I'm like, oh God, this has to do with like Marlon, because he's full-blooded Cheyenne, so I'm like, this is okay, he's gonna know what the hell to do, but I gotta get this thing out of me and go talk to Marlon. So I push it out. I really don't know what else to say. That's just, it was the spiritual bowel movement, essentially. And then I wake up and I realize I was actually asleep this whole fucking time, surprise. And I flip on the light, I throw on the blanket that I had on, and I run into his bedroom and I burst open the door and I'm like, Marlon, it happened. And of course they both shoot out of bed and the other dude's like, who's this twink? What the hell's he doing? He's in a robe, like what's going on? And he's like, don't worry, I'll put him to bed. It's fine, he lives here, I think. So then we both like run into the living room and the other guys go to sleep. We sit down on the couch and I have no idea where the fuck this comes from. I'm not some sort of like Miss Cleo, but I just say to him out of nowhere like, hey, who's Bonzo? And he's like, Bonzo, Uncle Bonzo. Bonzo was his uncle that had just passed away. And I, again, just came out of my mouth. I don't know why I said this, but I was like, sit down in front of me and give me your hands. What the So he does, and I take his hands, and then immediately I'm like out of my body, and I'm looking at me, and I see like Bonzo in me looking at Marlon, and I hear Bonzo say something to the effect to me of like, damn, I wish you spoke my language so I could actually like talk to Marlon. And I said back to him, damn, get out, like it's my body, what are you doing? And they just look at each other for a really long time, and like Marlon starts to cry, and then Marlon lets his hands go. And then I'm back in my body, and I feel Bonzo kind of go away. And I was like, well, hey, what the hell just happened? And he got really quiet, and he said, you know, Bonzo was here to tell me something that actually the doctor just recently told me too, which is that I have early signs of emphysema, and it's starting actually right here, where he's been touching me when he comes to visit me. And eventually that might be something that kind of helps take me out of this world. And the thing is that when I do leave this world, I'm going to need to first train another seagull. And I was wondering, did you read that book that I wrote you, or that I gave to you last night? And I said, yeah, actually, I just read it before I went to sleep. And he said, well, when you came in to the bedroom, you had your white blanket on, and you burst open the door so fast that the wind blew it back, and you looked just like a seagull opening the door. And that was the night that Marlon and I woke up together, and I don't really think in a way that either one of us has been able to go back to sleep since then. Thank you.